Thank you very much, Mr. President. Class of 2024, you made it. You made it. To Provost Mueller and members of the cabinet, to the distinguished faculty and staff, to Regent Herr, to the family and friends for lifting up, praying through, co-signing on the loan, making this possible. Let's give a round of applause again for all the folks and sponsors praying this class of 2024 through. I have to also salute my family, my grandparents who are here, my mother, and my chief of staff, Tess, who are here in the corner. And last but certainly not least, President Schmoke, my forever dean, who was my dean in law school. And he's been a role model to me and so many others for years. Someone who encouraged us not just to think about, but to pursue a path of public service. Even after he was out of elected office, when he was my dean, looking at how to not just chase the dollar, but to chase purpose in life. So I got to thank you, President Schmoke, for having me here today. Now, I was going to give a longer speech, but then Elizabeth came up. So if someone has a timer, because I'm sure some of you are taking selfies, set 10 minutes, because I want to be a responsible commencement speaker and not run off at the mouth. I have 3 ideas to share with you, and I'm going to get out of here. 10 minutes on the timer, okay? First, mountaintop moments like today are worth celebrating because you know the valleys that led to today. And there were some valleys. Service has shaped a lot of my life. As was mentioned, maybe, I'm the child of immigrants. My granddad, through service, joined the Peace Corps, met my grandmother through his service in Micronesia, in Palau, brought my grandmother and my mother back to the States in the early 1970s. My mom and dad raised a family of 5 in the Prince George's County suburbs, and we grew up in a community that was, in some ways, low in income, but rich in empathy. Amazing public school teachers, a robust social safety net before I knew what a social safety net was. Free reduced lunch programs, faith-based organizations that helped me and my siblings navigate and pursue dreams beyond what I could see. Beyond what I could see in my first job, frying chicken at Popeyes in Beltway Plaza Mall. Now, my printed biography is accurate, but there are omissions because there are parts of the story that are maybe by some considered lowlights. The schools I didn't get into, the internships and jobs I was denied, giving up a good-paying job at a law firm to work for a guy named Barack Obama who thought he was going to be president, talking with Dean Schmoke about, should I do this? Running for office, oh yeah. Running for office myself a decade later and getting whipped. Don't Google the results, but it was bad, 2018. Friendships that fell by the wayside, and the heartbreak of losing a woman that I truly loved. But failure and loss and those valleys can be the most effective teachers, as Elizabeth said. If I've had any success, it's been due in large part to the failures that helped shape me and the grace of God that sustained me through those valleys. Things I was embarrassed about as a child, things that I wouldn't tell anyone or certainly write in a bio as an adult. I look back now with gratitude, and I hope that you all, as you celebrate this mountaintop moment, think about those late nights, those classes, those professors came at you sideways, financial aid where the math wasn't mathin', the valleys. Second, service will save us. I'm blessed to lead the new State Department of Service and Civic Innovation, home of the service year option that allows recent high school graduates to discern next steps in their life through a year of service, and the Maryland Corps that was inspired by Senate President Bill Ferguson for people of any age who may need a next act in life or a pivot in their career to serve the state and figure out and discern what's next for them, where their purpose meets their passion. Dr. King famously said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? These are first-in-the-nation programs that allow for the broadest range of overlooked talent to participate in a transformative year of service. These programs are intentional about including those who may have come through some of those valleys. The program pays a living wage so that service is not limited to those who can afford to serve for less than $15 an hour. It doesn't screen out and disqualify people who may have a criminal record, but instead recognizes, yes, accountability for past mistakes is an imperative, but it cannot be a permanent denial of future opportunity. It recognizes that even if someone is not a U.S. citizen, there's a space and a place for them to contribute to this thing we call Maryland through service. Our programs also contemplate wraparound supports, because if you don't have housing, transportation, food, behavioral health, service is a nice to do that is not a realistic option. And service across lines of difference. Our goal is to provide a shared experience that brings together individuals from all backgrounds. The law that creates us is the Serving Every Region Through Vocational Exploration Act. Because Maryland is the world in miniature, the cosmopolitan nature of Baltimore. But cross that Bay Bridge, go out to Mountain Maryland. That's part of Maryland too. And it's imperative that we have members from every county in this state serving in the program. Because service is one of the last things left that can bridge the divide. Think about it. When you see a park that needs to be cleaned up, a family that needs a box of food, a young person that needs help learning how to read or write or figure out math, they don't usually ask who you voted for. They don't ask what party you're a part of. They don't ask what your prescription is for the national debt or for the state's structural deficit. There are very few things left in our society where people don't check your credentials before they do something good. And that is the power and stickiness of service. They ask who's willing, who's able. As Dr. King put it, the only prerequisite is a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. Service sees people and places in need and moves to address it. Service is a contact sport, and it's also built on the truism that it's hard to hate up close. One of my best professors at Howard Law, other than President Schmoke, who taught a great election law class, I got a B, but I earned that B, was John Payton, the late, great John Payton, who was the head of the NAACP Legal and Defense Fund. This guy argued so many school integration cases from the 70s all the way up to his passing in 2012. He argued almost every affirmative action case, even those before the Supreme Court before his untimely passing. And without getting into that issue, the last lecture of his class was looking at a guy who's argued cases around integrating school districts, busing. How do you know if a school district's integrated? The condition of the facilities, the racial makeup of a school. Fundamentally, John Payton's last lecture was, it's hard to hate up close, because a system of racial superiority or racial inferiority doesn't work when you're in the same room. And that's why he did it. And the difficulty now, so many years since Brown versus Board of Education, is you've seen the way that we've separated again, that we live, work, worship, study, generally with people just like us. Service is one of the last bridges left that will allow us to meet each other and not agree with each other, but respect the humanity and the perspective of one another without demonizing each other, and doing something good that builds up our community without checking your credentials in terms of, do you agree with me on these issues or that? Before coming to my current job, I led the community relations service at the Justice Department. We were running around from crisis to crisis. Communities like Baton Rouge, Louisiana, after Alton Sterling was killed while selling DVDs in front of a convenience store. Buffalo, New York, the Tops grocery store shooting 2 years ago. A shooter deliberately targeting that grocery store because it was the only hub of a community that was largely minority. Baltimore, during the trials of the officers involved in the Freddie Gray matter. And in these and several other matters I won't mention, the consistent pattern was that these communities had been left behind far before the incidents that brought the Department of Justice to these towns. In Baton Rouge, Mr. Sterling died north of Florida Boulevard, the unofficial boundary for that part of town, the underinvested part of town. In Buffalo was the east side, again, where that grocery store was not just a grocery store, it was where you got everything. Post office, pay your cable bill, buy a bus transfer, and buy food. because there wasn't much else going on in that part of town. In Baltimore, it was over by the Gilmore Homes projects. Now, there are several sociologists that have informed my work looking at the breakdown of community over the last several decades. Why don't people join things anymore? Why do you have racially identifiable neighborhoods and schools? Why do we look at each other as the enemy? Because we don't know each other. We know each other based on social media or in the abstract, but there are very few opportunities to have that contact sport of meeting and serving together. Our goal in this new program is that each of our members leave with a healthy sense of people different from themselves and a sense of agency. Life is not just going to happen to you. You're going to write your own story. By serving in this program, you're going to get the hard and soft skills, but also a broader option set to choose what it is you're going to do. And UBalt knows service. The university's 50 in 5 program, doing 50 hours of community service between October and March, serving the community. I got to shout out, I don't know if Ann Cotton's here, from the Schaefer Center, a center that has produced some of the best public servants our state and our country have known. I don't know if Ann's, thank you, Ann Cotton. And where we have one of our Maryland Corps members serving right now, Ms. Tanner, somewhere in the back with the red polo, one of our most seasoned members, because there's still gas in the tank. Thank you, Ms. Tanner, for serving in the Maryland Corps. Now, my last thought is, as you graduate and you transition from your major and your field of study, I encourage you to think about less so major, more so mission. That's 10 minutes. Here we go. In conclusion, I know you'll always represent your academic program with pride. I'm proudly wearing the robe I wore when I graduated from law school all those years ago with Dean Schmoke. But I hope you think about what your mission in life will be. Understand that your next assignment includes considering how you use the training, the network, the community you've built here at UBalt, to take that motto of knowledge that works and add in service to others. Whatever your field of study, your gifts and talents are sorely needed in a weary world. How can you use your secular vocation to show the compassion and the love of God to others? The governor's often talked about the need for your class, a class that was born in the aftermath largely of one of the worst terrorist attacks on our homeland, experienced the Great Recession, grew up as digital natives on your smartphones, and pursued higher education at the onset of a global pandemic. And you're graduating as AI continues to reshape our reality. We need your vision. And as the governor mentioned, where there are some who would rather use their energy instead to burn instead of build, UBalt builds. The power of service is as old as the scriptures. And whatever your major was here at UBalt, I hope that you continue to think about how will you use your training for the mission in terms of what comes next. A tried and true saying is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And using your empathy and training to improve the human condition is a key part of the ethos of this place. You've now become an official part of the University of Baltimore legacy. I'm honored to have had the chance to speak to you as you graduate. I'm enriched by the experience of coming to know this graduating class and this institution. Congratulations, class of 2024.